Vicki Delany is one of Canada's most prolific and varied crime writer and a national bestseller in the US. She has written more than 50 books, clever cozies to Gothic thrillers to gritty police procedurals to historical fiction and novellas for adult literacy. She is currently writing the Sherlock Holmes Bookshop series, the Year-Round Christmas Mystery, the Tea by the Sea books, and the Lighthouse Library series as Eva Gates. She is a past chair of the Crime Writer of Canada and co-founder of organizer of the Women's Killing It Crime Writing Festival. She is a recipient of the 2019 Derrick Murdoch Award for contribution to Canadian crime writing and will be the cozy guest of honor at Bouchercon in Calgary in 2026. Vicki lives in Prince Edward County, Ontario. Vicki is a past chair of the Crime Writer of Canada and co-founder and organizer of the Women Killing It Crime Writing Festival. Her work has been nominated for the Derringer, the Bony Blithe, the Ontario Library Association Golden Hawk, and the CWC Award of Excellence. She lives in Prince Edward County, Ontario. And on today's episode of Author Interview, it's my utmost pleasure, joy and excitement to have on the show today, Vicki Delany. How are you doing today, Vicki?
I'm just great, Peter, and it's lovely to chat to you
Yeah.
all across them, all the way from Yorkshire, yep, the
Very
world we
fun.
live in. Eh?
Absolutely amazing, actually, that we are here to sit down across continents to have this
Yes, yes,
conversation. That's one of
yes,
the beauty of social media, technology, and internet
it
connections,
is.
you know.
Yep.
So, Vicky, we are going to get into all that inspired you to write Oh Deadly Night, which is your last book in the year-end Christmas mystery. But then you've been a
Right.
writer
Yep.
now for the past 25 years, and you have published multiple
That's right.
titles aside from Oh Deadly Night. And I wanted to ask you, as my curiosity wouldn't allow me to, what is your first creative spark as a writer? What is that thing that fuels you to write? And also, why did you choose this title for a book? If you can run us through the making, the background, the foundation
Okay.
of your creative process, that would be great. I think I've got a lot in that question, Eva.
Okay. You did have a lot in that question. So first of all, I'll give anybody like to have a look. There's the cover of the new book.
Mm,
This is the eighth in the year-round Christmas series.
oh,
And before I answer some of your questions, I'll just mention to everybody this is what's called a cozy mystery. Right. So you can tell by the cover, you can tell by the title that it's intended to be light, it's intended to be funny and not taken too terribly seriously. So
mm,
when I started writing, I wrote, as you said in my bio, I wrote some psychological suspense. I wrote a police detective series, dark, fairly gritty sort of stuff,
mm,
and I enjoyed that. I really did. I did quite well with those. But then I sort of had an idea for a cozy book, and it all grew from there. So I'm now writing the cozy series, which I'm liking a lot more. I
wow,
think the thing about the cozy books is they're intended to be fun. So they should be fun for the reader, but they need to be fun for the writer as well. I was
absolutely.
getting a little bogged down, in the human tragedy and angst and that sort of stuff. So now I'm on the lighter side and I'm just enjoying books that are set on the lighter side. For my creative writing,
Mm,
I started writing long time ago. I still work like I was working full time. I actually used to be a programmer way back when,
wow.
and I worked for a big bank and I was a systems analyst. And I was pretty bored and burnt out with that. So it was really just a matter of I thought, I like to read. Maybe I'll try my hand at writing a book. So I took some courses at my local community college while I was still working.
Mm,
I had three kids at home, so I didn't have a lot of time. And I enjoyed the courses, and it took me 4 years to write my first book
wow.
because of the working and the kids and all the classes and all that. And it just went from there that I found that that book didn't do much, so I started another book,
Mm,
and I did eventually get published with one of my standalone suspense.
mm.
And I was lucky enough to be able to take early retirement from the bank. And so for the past almost 20 years, 15 years, I've been full-time writer.
Wow, I must say that is such a beautiful and amazing story towards all the making of this. And I like all those beautiful tales you've told around the making, the background, the foundation, and
Yeah.
how you get started into writing. That's a lovely tale, actually. Thank you for sharing. Thank you.
Okay,
And
because I think that the sort of key that I try to say to people, it's all about persistence, right? That I did
yeah.
write my first book, took me 4 years. Had other stuff on the go. It just, and that book kind of didn't really get anywhere. And so I started a new book and I just kept sending, books out to publishers. And if that wasn't working, then I started a new book. And finally I did land something. Persistence is the key.
Absolutely. That's a great one. And just in case for viewers who haven't read Oh Deadly Night yet, and of course, without giving much information away, could you give us a sneak peek into some of the, say, themes, subject lines, message, mission, or what you actually aim to achieve with the story?
Okay, there is and the thing about the cozy books is there's no message. There's not, it's not saying anything about the human condition. It's no, no important things to say about the human condition. They're supposed to be fun and light.
Right.
It's called the year-round Christmas series because it takes place in a town that wants to be known as your year-round Christmas destination.
Mm.
Not all the books are Christmas time, but Oh Deadly Night, the new one is. And it's very, very loosely based on the movie Rear Window, that's very famous. I shouldn't say based on, but that's where I sort of got the idea. So talk about the
Um,
creative spark. Everybody knows, I think, the premise of Rear Window, that basically that this man is, confined to his room and he's looking out the window and he sees watching his neighbors and he sees a murder.
oh,
Famous story. And I kind of I like that movie. Jimmy Stewart, I think, was the main actor. Great movie, great old movie. And I just sort of occurred to me, maybe I could do something along that line. So
mm,
one of the underlying premises in the series is the landlady of the main character is the local gossip. So she's always at her window watching the neighbors come and go. She's always on her phone, with this whole network of gossips that she has. And she starts watching new people move in across the street. So she starts watching them. And it's Christmas time and everybody's really busy. And she tries to get our main character, whose name is Mary, involved in her suspicions about these people. They're not very friendly. They're not, they're never seen outside. They don't have any children. It's just, this man who kind of comes and goes in his car all the time. She's quite suspicious. And then she disappears.
oh,
So the story then goes from there.
wow, wow. That
So
is
it's all about skullduggery in the neighborhood.
that is such an amazing one. And I wanted to ask you, what first sparked the idea of setting the series in Rudolph, New York, a town where it is Christmas all
Oh,
year?
it's just
And over the course of the series, how did you strike the balance between the festive holiday spirit and the darker side of a murder mystery? I would love your take on this.
actually, I mean, that's a good point because I am trying to keep the Christmas spirit going in that. So in this particular book, the book opens at the Santa Claus parade.
Oh,
And Mrs. D'Angelo is the name of the nosy neighbor. She's supposed to be working on one of the floats or being on one of the floats, and she doesn't arrive. So
oh,
that's sort of what kicks the whole thing off. And the reason she doesn't arrive is because she's too busy snooping on the new neighbors. So I am trying to keep it light. And you're right that the idea someone is murdered, Mrs. D'Angelo disappears. There's a murder later on. Those are not light and funny things, and I mean they never are. So there's a fine line that you have to distinguish, I think, between keeping the funny parts funny, but yet at the same time recognizing that the death of this person, the trauma that happens to Mrs. D'Angelo, and then the death of this person, those
mm,
aren't humorous things. So it's a little bit of a line to be careful um, and treat the murder and the murder victim, even though it's fictional, of course, with a certain amount of respect. Um,
yeah.
yeah, it's a fine line, but I think that a lot of writers do it fairly successfully, and I think that I, generally speaking, accomplish that.
That's an interesting one, really. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Just for readers who might not be familiar, how would you describe a cozy mystery in your own word? And also, you started out writing police procedurals and thrillers, but then you shifted into cozies.
Right.
What drew you to make that change, along the line?
Okay. First of all, I'm going to describe this as cozy as it is to me, as I define it. First of all, like I said, the book is light, tended to be not taken too terribly seriously. Usually it concerns a group of friends of some sort, a small community, a group of friends. But the key of a cozy mystery is the place that they live is extremely pleasant. It's the kind of place you would like to live in, that I would like to live in. A nice town, a nice community. Our character has good friends and that sort of stuff. Something goes wrong in their community. Usually it's a murder, a disappearance kicks off this book. Something goes wrong in their community. So it's sort of up to our protagonist, whoever that is, and their friends to make things right again. So it's a good town and a good place. And at the end, there's no question that everything is going to be set back to rights and it's going to be a pleasant place to live once again. Everybody's talking right now about the TV show just came out, or the movie for the Thursday Murder Club. Good example of a cozy, right? They live in that really nice retirement community. The four friends get together and solve the mystery. So I see that. I see a cozy is not really having any sense of real tragedy. Someone has died, and that is sad, but there's not overwhelming tragedy in people's lives. And another way I like to define a cozy is it's a genuine puzzle mystery, meaning that the author must lay down the clues in such a way that the astute reader has a good chance of solving the mystery at the same time or slightly before the protagonist does. So it's almost a game of wits between the author and the reader. The author must lay down the clues in a fair way, but the author also is trying to disguise it, right? Obviously you don't want everybody to know what's going on. So it's a puzzle mystery, a bit of a game of wits to try and disguise what's going on. But it should be obvious for example, on second reading, if someone does read the book for the second time, then the clues should of course it was John because, he missed the train on Tuesday, that kind of thing. So it's up to the author to disguise all those points with red herrings and distractions and people that have other secrets and that sort of stuff. So that to me is essentially what a cozy is. First part of your question was how come I changed from thrillers?
Yeah.
It is a little bit of a story. I did have an idea. One of my daughters is a paramedic. She works in the city of Toronto. And she worked for a while on the Turks and Caicos Islands, which is a Caribbean island. She worked there for a year and a half. Very much a fish out of water, this tiny little Caribbean island, a Canadian medic. And I just thought that'd be a nice story, book. I could write a nice book series about that similar sort of thing, right? So I did come up with the idea, and I approached an agent with it. And she read it. She said she really liked it. She didn't think she'd be able to sell it. Okay, I left that, talked again about persistence. And then a while later, she contacted me and she said that Penguin Random House was looking for an author to write the Lighthouse Library series, which I do under the pen name of Eva Gates. Happen to have one right here. Ta-da! So that all started from there. So I got the contract with Penguin for the Lighthouse Library series that I do run right under a pen name. And I realized that I liked it. It's a cozy series as well. I really liked writing it. And then I had an idea for the Sherlock Holmes Bookshop series, and it all went from there. So now that I'm writing cozies, people often ask me if I'm going to pick up the police detective series again or write a new standalone thriller. And I'm kind of happy with what I'm doing right now.
That's an amazing one. That's that's an amazing one, actually. Very interesting and quite awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And you're juggling four different series and managed to put out a new book in each one every year. And I must say that is really, really, really impressive of you. Now, how do you keep up with this pace? And do the characters ever start to blur together for you in any way?
I write one book at a time from beginning to end completely. I'm not working on two books at the same time. I don't even let ideas for a new book creep in while I'm working on one of them. Now I'll get, for example, I'll get edits from the publisher on another book. So I would stop whatever I'm working on and do that again, beginning to end, until that's finished, and then go back. So the books are similar in style, but they're very different. The characters in particular are very different voice, very different sort of people. So yeah, I think the only way I can really keep the voices distinct is because I have to not mix them up one at a time, right, beginning to end. How do I do that? Essentially, it's my full-time job now. My children are all adults now, so they've moved out of the house, so I live alone. And I work every day when I'm at home. I travel a lot, so I don't work when I travel, but when I'm at home, I work every single day, 7 days a week. Usually I start about 9 o'clock, work for till 1 or 2 or something like that. I have a totally dedicated computer that I only use for writing books. So I have a nice office set up in the back of my house with a nice big computer, and I don't write on it. So on the laptop that I used to write on, I don't have any. I've never set up email. I don't have Facebook or any kind of social media apps. I don't even have like my email. And that's the computer I use to write on. And I think that's, for me anyway, that's really important that I'm not getting all those distractions. I think it's way too easy for you to just open up Facebook, or an email. Let's see if, maybe I'm waiting to hear from somebody. Oh, I'll just see if they've written to me. And then, 2 hours later, you've fallen down the rabbit hole. And so for me, it doesn't necessarily work for everybody. For me, I need to be completely away from that kind of a distraction. Now I'll stop after, have something to eat and go to my computer and see what's happening in the world, for example. But when I'm actually writing the words, it's a totally dedicated laptop only for that.
That's an amazing one, actually. I love your answers and take on these questions, really.
I heard a woman talking on the radio a number of years ago. She talked about what she called the creative space. And to her, the creative space was that moment, part of a second between one idea and another.
Yeah.
And she felt that the creative space was being too crowded out these days. As soon as you sort of went into that spot, like between one idea and another, between one sentence and another, your fingers were opening Facebook, or you're looking at social media, or you're answering your phone or doing something like that. And she felt that we were losing a lot by that. And that to me was really impactful. That really meant something to me. So that's why I really believe that it's important to take yourself as far away as you can from all those sort of distractions.
Absolutely. Very important, actually. Thank you. Thank you for mentioning.
Yeah.
And even though you're Canadian, most of your books are set in the US. What made you choose that setting? What inspired that transitioning?
It's not, I wouldn't say inspired. Very, very few Canadian set books are published by American publishers. American publishers are, of course, the biggest ones. There are definitely Canadian publishers publishing Canadian books, and I had some of my earlier books were published by good Canadian publishers. But if you want the big market, books can't be set in Canada. I mean, American publishers, American readers, for some reason, unknown to us, we've worked, when I was the president of the CWC, we fought hard against this. But American readers want books set in Canada. They're also, by the way, very fond of books set in the UK. And otherwise, they want to read books set in the US. And that's where the big sales are. That's where the big money is. So I set my books in the US. Yeah. Purely monetary reasons.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a very lovely marketing strategy. I love that. Beautiful enough. Yeah. Thank you. Absolutely.
What if that's the cozy books, I should say. My earlier books were set in Canada.
Oh, interesting. Very interesting. And just apart from the year-round Christmas mystery, do you have any other works that you've authored or say currently working on?
Yeah, what am I writing right now? I'm writing a Sherlock Holmes Bookshop book right now that I stopped to talk to you. This is the latest one in that. In this book, actually, if you can see, there's a couple of, there you go, Union Jacks in the back. So in this book, the characters actually go to London.
Oh.
And because the main character in the Sherlock Holmes Bookshop series is English, She's come to Cape Cod to run the Sherlock Holmes Bookshop that her uncle owns. And every couple of books, they go back to England. And that's turned out to be really popular. And I really do like that, being able to do that, which also means I have to go, of course, to England to do research, right? So I'm working right now on a Sherlock Holmes Bookshop series, bookshop book. They're quite fun for me to do. The premise is that the character owns a Sherlock Holmes themed bookstore on Cape Cod, but she is herself the Sherlock Holmes character. She's my interpretation of Sherlock Holmes if he was a modern young woman. So she thinks like Sherlock Holmes. She's got the memory like Sherlock Holmes, and that's all just fun to do. Again, keep it light and funny.
Absolutely. That's an amazing one. Thank you for sharing. And you know, as a writer that you are, I mean, you've published quite impressively. What sort of advice would you give somebody who is out there about to set on this journey of becoming an author and who is still stuck, struggling with either writing or publishing a book? What advice would you give someone in this category?
I have like two pieces of advice. First of all, I really believe that to be a writer, you have to read, and you have to read a lot. You certainly
Yeah,
have to read the sort of thing that you're trying to write. It's almost like that's how you learn your craft as a
yeah,
writer, right? That there are the basics, of course, of grammar and spelling and all that kind of stuff
yeah.
that are important, and plot structure. But to read a lot is how you refine your craft, see what works, see what doesn't work.
Mm,
Don't just read in your genre. You need to read fairly widely. And the other piece of advice is to, as I said earlier, just be persistent. I mean, publishing is a really, really tough business to get into. So you
mm,
can't get discouraged. You can't give up. You just have to, plow on, keep sending your book in to publishers and agents. And
mm,
if, what do you do the day you finish your book? Well, you start the next one. Even if the first one hasn't sold, maybe the next one will be the one. So persistence is really important, and recognition that it's a really, really hard business to break
mm.
into. But obviously there's plenty of books out there, so plenty of people do it. So yeah, persistence matters a lot. The other thing I'd also say is persistence works also in working on your book. Don't give up
Yeah.
halfway through and think it's not going to work and you start another one. Because,
Mm,
that every author gets caught in what we call the soggy middle, meaning
yeah.
it's just not working. You can't see your way through to the end. If you give up, well, it's never going to get finished, right? So persistence is the key, even if you're starting to feel a little bit discouraged.
Mm,
Keep at it and it'll come.
absolutely. I love your take on that. Very important. Very, very important. Thank you. And just in case we have some viewers who are watching this interview and would love to get a copy of any of your books, on what platform are they available on for purchase?
The books are all available in the UK on Amazon and other online sites. They'll certainly be available, probably not in the bookstores, but if you went into your favorite bookstore and asked them to order it, I'm sure they could because they are there. They are there, and as I said, they're certainly available online in
Mhm.
ebooks as paper books.
That's amazing. And I left a link in the description part of this interview where interested viewers can get a copy of Vicki Delany book directly on Amazon and Barnes& and Nobles on our website and also on other platforms. I also left a link to Vicky's social media pages for possible followings. So thank you so much, Vicky. It's amazing that we can sit down across continent and have this beautiful conversation around your title.
Yep.
This is really impressive, and I want to say once again, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you, and thank you very much for inviting me. It's great, and you say it's lovely to meet people so far away. There's to have a nice conversation, and thanks to everybody who's listened in. And my website is vickidelany.com. Watch the spelling of both the first name and the last name. Log on to my website and say hi.
Thank you. Everything
Thank you
is
very much.
attached in the description.